Everybody, Chris Wall here. Good evening. Welcome to the episode 4 of season 2 recap live stream. I'm Chris Wall, the executive producer of the animated series, and these are really fun times for us to look back at the last week's episode from Friday and talk about all the stuff we saw in that episode and answer your questions. So if you've got questions for us tonight, be sure to send those in our chat threads wherever you're watching this. And thanks for watching the show. We've got a really cool night tonight. Andrew Peterson is going to join us live, and we're going to do some cool stuff together. I'm wearing one of our new T-shirts. It's an Oscar shirt. Super excited about this one. And we're going to talk some more about another new merch item coming up at the end of our time. Tonight, we have a special guest, Matthew Rhys. He is the cool voice actor for the Florid Sword that many of you got to meet in episode 4. And he's going to join us. I will just say right away, it was a pre-recorded interview to get Matthew just kind of at the right time. That was how we had to do it, but it's super cool. We have a couple new merch items that we're going to highlight tonight, including a new release that you haven't seen. And then some of you joined last week for collectibles. This is where we get to sign special digital versions of frames from the show. We're going to do that again tonight. Both Andrew and I have iPads in hand. So if you're interested in that, you can go check out the Wingfeather store. And there are lots of different frames and images to choose from. And tonight, if you're interested in that, we will sign them as we go. So that's pretty cool. Coming up, we have a sneak peek at the end of the time for this week's episode 5, coming out this Friday. You definitely want to stay for that clip. I'm pretty excited about it. But to get us going tonight, let's take a look at this recap of all that happened in episode 4. Just a quick version of this so you can know where we are. Here you go. Check this out.
Tell me where the jewels are hid, Birdman. The Roundish Widow.
We need passage north, and we need it yesterday.
Be here at midnight.
Time to move.
It's spooky to be out after curfew. That's what makes it fun.
I expect you're the Igibys.
If anything goes wrong, meet me at the Strand tomorrow.
No, Mama said to stay down. The Florid Sword!
Here! Now!
Not without...
They know where to meet us. This is what we've trained them for.
Yeah. Lots of trouble at the Roundish Widow. That Mig Landers. Man, he's a jerk. Lots to unpack from this episode, and we want to dive into it. So save your questions. We're going to take as many of those as we can at the end and talk through them. But it revealed a new character that a lot of you have been talking about for a while, including suggesting who the voice should be. And I'm not sure that anybody guessed it before we revealed it, but it was Matthew Rhys. Many of you saw him in Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the Mr. Rogers story, as well as a bunch of other TV shows. I wish we had his audition. Unfortunately, I think I've misplaced it, but his audition for this role was fantastic. And we had a chance to sit down with Matthew and talk about him joining our show, and it was a really cool thing. So check out this interview with the Florid Sword actor Matthew Rhys. Matthew, welcome to the Wingfeather Saga. So glad to have you.
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me on this saga. I'm very excited to be duplicitous. I hope.
That is the word. Thank you so much for being here, man. I'm a fan of your work, and it's an honor to have you on the show.
I found you at last. Always wondered who you were.
Yes, that's right.
We spent some time listening to various auditions of folks, and you came in with just so much zeal and energy for the Florid Sword. And he's such a dynamic character, but he also has a distinct accent. Tell us about his accent and your own, because that made it such an interesting character.
Right. Well, first of all, I have to say, having been an enormous fan in my boyhood of things like Zorro, there was another series called The Flashing Blade, which took my imagination. And then, all the other classics like, Princess Bride, etc., etc. The Florid Sword, I felt, came very naturally to me because I spent an enormous amount of my childhood being in the garden with a piece of bamboo, saving people, basically, using a slightly, at times heightened use of language. But I grew up. That garden was in South Wales, so it was my native accent that I brought to that audition, and I kind of just, as someone from a small country, I'm always trying to put our flag, where many haven't heard from us. So I was very excited that there was going to be a Welsh Florid Sword.
I love that, man. And like, I grew up kind of the same. I don't know. I won't ask how old you are, but I feel like we're about the same age. But like, all those characters you just mentioned, Three Musketeers, Princess Bride, all that stuff was in my mind when when I wrote that character. And when Ned sent over the auditions that you did, there were like, I want to say like 5 different potential accents. There was like the Italian version of the Florid Sword, the Welsh version, the French version, and they were all so good. I was just like, oh my goodness, which one is it? So
there were certainly a few that I thought could have me locked up by a SAG-AFTRA police force. Or like, you must never do that Italian accent again, or set foot in Italy.
Yeah, to us, we Americans, they were all convincing. They were all perfect. It was like, oh, there's another
very gracious, very gracious.
That's good.
So Matthew, in the other character of Florid Sword, in his adjacency, without spoiling anything, is a character named Gammon.
Yeah,
Gammon, you chose to play with a different accent, and tell us about that. And then I'd love to hear just, when did you start playing with accents? I mean, as an actor, obviously you have these things. Was it as a child did you get into it, or when did that develop for you?
Yeah, well, to start there, as a kid growing up in the 80s, we only watched American television. So we only watched Starsky and Hutch, or the A-Team, or Airwolf, all these television shows. So, as a kid, you'd be out, you'd be on the schoolyard with your friends playing the A-Team, trying to mimic or more so butcher American accents. So I think for any British actor of a certain age, your ear is, the American accent is in your living room from a very early age. None of us went out, and played Downton Abbey on the schoolyard. So we were always trying to imitate Americans. And then we crossed the pond and try and do it professionally. So for the part of Gammon, the other part, it's what seemed the natural thing for me to do, because I've now been trying to do this for many years, is to play him in an American accent, because like I said, that's what I've been trying to get away with for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, seeing you in the Mr. Rogers movie, it was like it was stunning to realize later, oh, he's not from America. It was a very good American accent, which usually you can sniff that stuff out, but you've got it down. And I'm always impressed. Like, I always wonder, is it easier for Americans to do British accents or for Brits to do American accents? And I don't know. I did the opposite of you. I was always a kid trying to figure out, the kids on the schoolyard in America where everything was Robin Hood or Harry Potter or whatever. You're always trying to figure the thing.
Yes. Yeah. I honestly just think it's whatever it is you're sort of, you're most attuned to, or you've listened to most, because then then growing up, I'm into all the kind of, the Scorsese movies, and you're in the mirror trying to do Taxi Driver. I was always trying to impersonate an American. And then when I finally came to America to start looking for work, and I had a voice coach say, look, just stay in the accent as long as possible. The reason Gammon feels like an alter ego is because sometimes when I'm leading up to a job, I'll just stay in the American. I'll go into the store and try and, sometimes it slips. And you see people going, sorry, what was that? But the American accent at times feels like an alter ego.
Wow.
How did you get into acting, Matthew? What was the trigger? Was there an actor, or was there a stage show or a TV show or something that you said, man, that's the thing I want to chase?
It was more so in Wales. The performing arts are very much revered and very pushed for the youth movement. And twice a year is a very big cultural festival where all the youth of Wales are invited to come and compete. Although it sounds like an oxymoron that you have children compete against each other in performing arts, but there were kind of full contact poetry recitals where, drama recitals, or any kind of performing arts, and it all takes place in this enormous marquee, and it's a very big arts festival. So performing arts are very much pushed. And I remember an older friend of mine, kind of at 18, said, "I'm going to try the drama school and do this as a career." And I was like, "What? As a career? This is a hobby. You can't do it as a career." And then he went on to drama school, and I went, "Well, if he's going to do that, I'm going to give it a go." So took a little persuasion on my parents, because they were educators, and they were like, no, you go to university and you got a degree. But I didn't. I went to drama school and got a diploma, much to their continued disappointment.
And was your path television, theater, film? Like, what was the thing that you were most in love with?
It certainly started with theatre. I was in London at the time, went to the Royal Academy, and then was in the West End and the Royal Shakespeare Company and the Royal Court and the Old Vic. I did many years in the theatre. I played Benjamin Braddock in a stage adaptation of The Graduate opposite Kathleen Turner. And that's when I thought, now I must go and conquer America, because I've cracked the American accent, or so I thought.
Uh-huh.
Have you done animation, like voice work like this before?
I've done a little, yes, yeah. I had a lot of fun playing a shark a few years back, which my son was very happy about, on an animated feature called SEAL Team. And yeah, it's something I think for actors, the imagination is allowed to run rampant, because also the luxury you have, it certainly, the absolute antithesis or opposite of filming is you kind of have to make, in filming, big decisions quite early on and stick to them. And the freedom you have in animation is, like, you can do a take where you go as wild as possible, and then you have the time, or more so producers, directors, and everyone around you have the patience to go, let's just pull that back in a tiny little bit to make it, in a real place. But you have this freedom and this time to kind of play and hone it and change it and color it and do whatever. And that, to me, is kind of the greatest luxury.
Wow. It's amazing to watch, voice actors have such freedom too, with their physicality, right? So in the booth, right, when just watching just all this energy and kind of pushing about. With Florid Sword, of course, he's very active, leaping about and stabbing quite well, as Oscar says. Are you trained at all in any sort of fencing and any of that?
I am. As I said, in my youth, my grandfather had an old fencing rapier that I stole from his attic, and that was my greatest toy in my backyard growing up. I was stabbing a number of things I shouldn't have in my father's vegetable plot. But then when I went to the Royal Academy, then there's a very big onus on fencing, stage combat, unarmed stage combat. So, and then you're examined. There's actually a qualification process where each year you prepare a fight, and then you show it in front of a board of fight directors, and they grade you and they mark you. So the culminating fight I did was from the old Basil Rathbone Robin Hood, where everyone was doing some very, very serious, like, liaison de jure. I was like, no, Basil Rathbone has my heart, and I will do a scene of that Robin Hood.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
we did a Romeo and Juliet. I studied theater in college, and the director informed us that we'd be doing stage combat, and I was like, oh my gosh, this will be a blast. Then he wanted us to do, I've forgotten it now, it's been so many years, but where you have a short sword and a long sword, and so you do a lot of the crossing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this would be just great. But he insisted we go, and we had to be trained with this fella. We got wounded so often, just about every night. This fella playing Romeo was really passionate, and he would come at me, and we do this top block thing. And every time his little sword would hit, and they were so flexible, and it'd whack you on the top of the head, right? It would bend enough that it would kind of give this whack, and you'd have to like, move, acting, stop hitting me.
I know. Believe me, I did a year and a half at the Royal Shakespeare Company, a number of fights, and the statistics are, if you're doing something like that over a year and a half, a number of things will go wrong, and they do. Always keeps it interesting, but it's never fun if you're on the receiving end. In the Royal Academy, when I was there back in yesteryear, from 93 to 96, one of the things you had a term of radio training, because at the time BBC Radio still churned out a lot of radio dramas, and it was a kind of very entry level for, like, you know, drama students. So we would have these techniques like page turning, not like now the children with their iPads and they swipe silently. We used to have like page turning technique lessons of how to turn the page quietly, how to approach the mic, how to be physical without moving, you know. So it was only a few weeks, but it was a few of those things definitely stuck with me.
Now every time you read a book, you turn the page very quietly.
Yes, yeah. and we had this old guy who always said, tension on the page, because if you're turning it loosely, that's when it makes a noise. You almost have to pull it and then turn it. I was never very good at it. Thank God for iPads.
Tell us about your experience with animation. Do you have any favorite animated characters or animated films?
I'm trying to think, because obviously with a 7-year-old son, I am watching a lot of, I think probably Robin Williams and Aladdin for me. Actually, I've never shown that to my son. I should, because now he watches the Will Smith version. But I remember, you know, just Robin Williams vocally anyway was, to me, if not still, one of the greatest. And his Aladdin, I just kind of remember going, how is he doing it? There's the athleticism, or kind of his gymnastic range and the switch of going from one voice to a very different voice. I remember kind of being very shocking and going, how is he doing that? And something I find myself kind of doing when I'm, you know, in the shower. You kind of go, you see if you can go from that lower range to something very high, but in a way that's believable. That's what he's kind of, you know, was incredible at doing, and has still, you know, remained a real benchmark to me in that kind of animated voice work.
That's awesome. You've also had a wide range of comedic and dramatic work. And with Wingfeather, you get to play with both. Do you prefer one or the other? Do you prefer kind of the more dramatic work or comedic?
I have to say I enjoy the comedic work just because it's fun. It's more fun. I mean, there are times it certainly requires its own skill set of kind of discipline and knowing not when to, you know, go over the waterfall on it and kind of pull on the reins of it. But I enjoy the comedic stuff far more just because it literally is fun. And you know, the times the dramatic stuff makes you just go, oh, this is, you know, oh brother, here we go again. Especially when you're doing a dramatic part on stage for months on end. Just before that moment before you go on stage, you just go, oh. And with the comedy stuff, you always kind of, you know, that in theatre, especially when that first laugh you get from an audience is such an adrenaline rush that it never gets old. So it's I know it's very obvious, but it's just more fun to do.
Well, our family was introduced to you in Death Comes to Pemberley, and just loved your performance there. And so when Ned first introduced, hey, we're thinking about Matthew, oh my, there's a wide range within your repertoire. So
that's what I tell everyone. I tell everyone that, yeah.
Well, Andrew has had a whack at the Florid Sword voice for many years because he's done the audiobooks and read alouds and other things. Andrew, do you want to sample that for us today?
I would prefer not to in this moment. Yeah, it's so funny. I tried to do accents, you know, like try to go through to the accents. And when I was reading these books aloud to my kids as I was writing them, they were always correcting me. They were like, "Nope, you used that accent for the other character yesterday." And so I had time to, you know, they were my voice coaches for a while. But yeah, I don't pretend at all to be a really great accent guy. I'm super intimidated like when this show came out, I do Oscar Nosratip, who's this kind of like portly bookseller with a British accent. And when I felt pretty comfortable with it as long as the show was in the States. And then when I realized, oh wait, people in England and Wales are going to be watching this, I was horrified. And so anyway, So we kind of decided to approach it like Oscar Nasrteep is actually not, he doesn't have an actual accent. He just aspires to have one, which as a character. So if it's wrong, sometimes it's true. It's because he can't really do it, which is.
Oh, believe me, I did a show called The Americans for 6 seasons. I was playing a Russian who was pretending to be an American, and it was the greatest get out of jail card I've ever had. Because I knew if my accent ever slipped, I was like, I'm Russian, sorry. It was the best. So but children are brutal when it comes to storytelling, because like they're always, you try and do the Harry Potter and not repeat an accent or a voice. They're like, you've done that for Professor McGonagall. You can't use it again. I was like, oh. Literally the other day, I started reading. I started reading the BFG. And my son said, that's Hagrid's voice. You can't use that. I was like,
even another franchise. Oh, man.
He's like, wow, this is tough.
That's so funny.
Yeah, parents around the world reading and making characters up. It's my wife has given up on it. So when she reads out to the kids, she just reads straight through and just doesn't do anything with it.
It's best way, because you're just literally corralling yourself into a corner you can't get out of.
Yeah, I'll be reading a dramatic scene in Harry Potter. My kids start giggling. What? That's the wrong voice, Dad.
When I meet families who are into the books, I always ask the kids, does your dad read to you or your mom read to you? And they're like, oh, well, mom usually does. Dad does sometimes. And I always ask if they do good voices. And there's always a hilarious, like, look sideways, they kind of look at each other because one or the other is better. And the kids will just say, oh, yeah, mom can't do voices. Dad does the voices, So yeah, they're very critical in the best way.
In our house, what the critique is, I do better voices, but mum reads better. I'm always the one going, what's that in the road ahead? Oh, sorry, what's that in the road ahead? Yeah, and Terry's always kind of going, what? How can you get that so wrong? But I was like, yeah, but the voice was great, though, right?
Yeah. So I love it. Like
we got going on this.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You're good.
So we got going on this. We had a lot of pressure because the books have been out for a while. They're quite beloved. And kids will come up with tattered versions of it to Andrew and get him to sign, this kind of thing. And they've read it so many times. And so taking adapted work, right, and moving it into an animated series, kids are brutal because they haven't. This is how it is. The story exists in their heads and in their hearts, right. And you're going to try to move into it. And so we've taken such careful steps, try to make a fresh version, right, that they can engage in and like, oh, this is new. It's not just derivative from the page, but also bring it to life. Talk to me about your kind of experience in adapting work and finding fresh ways into characters, maybe even that are established.
It's always very intimidating. In fact, I now find it terrifying because I've kind of been burnt in the past playing, like I said, I did a stage version of a very famous movie called The Graduate. That was the role was defined by Dustin Hoffman, and so when people come to see it, they kind of expect you to be Dustin Hoffman. And the same thing happened I did another show called Perry Mason, and a big generation have a very concrete idea of who Perry Mason is or how it should be played, i.e. by the last actor who played him. Mm-hmm. So when you bring in your new, your new take on it, your new voice on it, it jars people. But I can only imagine as books, that's times 1,000, because that entire experience is so innately personal. Everything is in that reader's head, that mind, the voices. So you're recreating for every reader. It's kind of, I can only imagine it's a pretty terrifying and daunting step to do. But I think I've learned, I've done a few adaptations now, or taken over parts that have been played in the past by someone quite famous. And I think for me, you have to be bold in your steps. You kind of go, I'm not going to try and make it different for the sake of being different. The choices I'll commit to have to be for my own, validated for my own reasoning or for my own reasons, and not necessarily just to be different. And I just think you have to be brave and kind of go, this is the version that I'm presenting, and I hope you like it.
That's good advice, I think, for any actor, because I think the temptation would be to play it safe, right? Just to kind of and not take a risk, and then you're not memorable whatsoever,
Right. Then it's just vanilla rendition.
Yeah, wonderful. Matthew, we're so glad to have you on the show. Can't wait to engage. I know even from the auditions, some of the animators will sometimes hear some of these auditions from some of the wonderful actors we've had on the show, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to animate that." Because the voice drives so much performance, and it's like you feed into, and it's lovely to see the animators get excited, right? And they, I want that guy. I love what he's doing, and so they're eager to get into it with Florid Sword and with Gammon. So thank you so much for joining us.
Not at all. Listen, an enormous thanks for kind of allowing me to play a part of my childhood that has not been yet exercised, and is only done so, now with my 7-year-old in the backyard. So nice to do it professionally. And
there's no turning back. There's no, all of your roles from here on out are going to be,
I'm in. I'm all in. I'm absolutely all in. So thank you very much for the invitation. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Matthew. It's a huge honor. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Wow. Love Matthew. Oh, look, Andrew's here.
Ta-da! Yeah, he is a classy dude.
Man.
Yeah. Great guy.
Andrew is the author of the series, if you don't know, and executive producer, and so glad to have you here tonight.
Glad to be here.
You've grown a beard since that video.
A wee beard.
A wee beard.
Yeah, I was just noticing I must have just gotten a haircut. I look balder in that video than I've ever seen myself. That's why I'm wearing a hat right now.
Hey, man.
Hey.
Well, episode 4 was just really incredible, and Matthew did so much to kind of deliver on that moment. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for years to hear the Florid Sword come to life and to see him be stabbed right well.
Silly serpents. I love that moment in the session. I think it was Ned's idea to coach him to say it like you're running out of ideas and you're kind of trying to think of one more insult. It's so good. So
and
funny.
Then the animators just absolutely had a blast.
Yeah.
So many of you know the Florid Sword, and Matthew plays another character in the series who you will be introduced to in episode 5. Not to give too many things away, but that's coming up. If you don't know, Wingfeather Saga is community supported. We have a video coming out soon where I'm going to explain a little bit further about what community supported means and how that works with our show. But we've been crowdfunded and then community supported, meaning a lot of people watched our show, and then we asked them at the end of watching it, hey, if you like this, for free, you can pay it forward and be a part of that. And that's been one way. Another way to support it is buying merch. We make cool shirts like this new Oscar shirt, and we make all kinds of cool stuff. And that is a way to support the show as well. And of course, many of you have decided to join us in the Wingfeather Guild, which we're so thankful for, where every month you're a faithful supporter helping us to move in from season 2 into season 3 production. Thank you for that. We've had so many of you sign up for that and help support us in this early release window for Guild access, and thank you.
Yes, thank you.
But we don't want to stop on the merch side. All kinds of new stuff we have planned, and that includes a brand new t-shirt. Check this out. It's a new shirt of the Florid Sword.
Dun, dun,
What?
dun.
I think somebody was in the chat last week saying, wait, where's my Florid Sword shirt? Oh, it was waiting. Bunch of our staff helped to make this. We're so excited about this. It was kind of a communal effort between a number of our folks coming up with the design there, and that is in the store. So if you want to support our show and wear something really cool, you can check out this Florid Sword. We have lots of other cool merchandise and decided we should just put it together in a little video to kind of highlight, hey, what does that stuff look like? So check this thing out. Thank you. Lots of cool stuff, including figurines like this one with Jenner. Y'all, these are super cool, and we mentioned this last week, but we had been selling them as a set, and now you can get these guys separately. They're really fun. It includes, they are posable and can do a little bit of movement here.
And you can take it off
and then
the
they can
base.
come off the thing and be their own little guy. But these are just really well crafted. We're so impressed with how well these turned out. I think the idea of them was one thing. We had an early test of them that would have looked like this. Here's one with Pete. Maybe we get to do this in the future. But
I hope we do.
And it was kind of like, well, that's a cool idea, but what would it actually look like? And then here they are. And it's got like the just right amount of rubber, like a little bit of flex to it.
Yeah.
And you can take the sword in and out of his hands. That's pretty cool. We also have in there, you only saw it briefly, but this one I'm going to hold up and try to explain it to you. So
explain it to me too, because I'm still a little bit.
Well, thankfully I have a video once I get here. But this is an AR pin by Pinfinity. And it is a really cool pin of Jurgen here on the edge from episode 1 with Lily. And we have a little clip here we're going to play that explains how this works. But basically, you can take a shot of this and something cool happens with your phone. So check this out.
Is there no sound? Oh, there's sound.
I think we're going to do a full unboxing here. So I think we can talk through this.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, so here's the pin coming out. All right, there it is. Okay, now we're going to hold it up. And,
whoa,
and
look
in
at
a
that.
phone, it does this tracer.
Oh, my goodness.
And a video plays.
So wait,
in your phone.
you download an app to do this,
Mhm.
I guess?
The Pinfinity app. And then it scans the pin. And you
oh,
can
my
choose...
goodness, look at that. That's so cool.
Isn't that cool?
I want to play with it.
Yeah. So we should have downloaded that beforehand, but we did not. But anyways, it's a really cool, like a heavy metal pin. So if you've seen this in a store and you're like, what is that? Well, that's what this is. For everybody that knows, they know. But
that is so cool.
Yeah. So anyways, that's in the store. So you can go to wingfeathersaga.com.
Can I have that one?
And, well, this is the only one we have. So no, probably need to save it and mess with it.
I'll buy one.
Okay, fine. But those are in the store, too. So that's super cool. Last week, we also showed you collectibles. So this is this new thing where we have iPads, where you can choose to buy a scene, a clip, an image from one of the episodes, and we will sign them for you.
So I'm signing one right now for somebody named James Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
And his note says, "My kids love these characters. Thank you." And I'm about to sign it. I don't know if you can show it.
You got your cool thing going there. Yeah, there it is. I'm watching in real time as you sign it. That's pretty cool. I have one from Clara Showalter. I don't sign as much as you do, so I'm going to think carefully about this. I'm going to get the right pin. But anyways, if you want tonight to order one of these collectibles, we will try to sign them live for you as we go. Now, as we start into this section, of course, we know you have questions. So if you have questions you want to hit us with, we will start to both sign and answer questions at the same time. That's what we're going to do.
I can't do two things at once.
Well, I'll do my best.
It's so quiet. Awesome. Thank you to the Spencer fam.
Pretty
Scotty.
fun.
Oh, Scotty picked a cool one. Look at the scene. You guys seeing this? Okay, yes.
That's a great
this
one.
is awesome.
That was really good.
I want to write this.
Okay, for real.
Scene is so cool. I'm not really going to do that. I'm going to erase it. Watch this.
Okay. Oh, we got a couple of things. You're terrible. All right, so let's hit some of these questions while Andrew keeps signing. I've got a couple in here too. But what's your first question there, folks? All right. Sarah says, Andrew, when writing the books, what was the toughest character to write, developing your personality soon?
The toughest character to write. One of the things that I had to think about the most possibly was actually Nag the Nameless. Because I needed like early on in the process when I was kind of building the world and working on book 1, I thought, haha, Nag the Nameless is a pretty funny name for a villain. But then I had to figure out why he was called Nag the Nameless and write his backstory and his history and figure out why does he want to capture the Wingfeathers? What's his end game? And that was, hopefully I'm not spoiling too much, but there's a point in book 4 where we actually get to know that story and meet him, and getting inside his head and really trying to understand what would make a person behave this way and lose themselves in this way was difficult. And yeah, that's all I can say. But that's the first name that popped into my head.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we were just meeting last week with the story team, talking about. You're right. Doing this at the same time is not a good idea. Talking about. Oops, I made it green. That's not what I wanted to do. I gotta get the eraser now. So we were talking last week as a team about some of the backstory and how we need to unpack and understand that story for those characters to make sense later on in the story.
Right.
Because so we are thinking about all 7 seasons, all 4 books of this, and so choices characters make. How does that align with, and how clear do we need to be about that choice,
right,
to inform what happens next?
Which the cool thing about that is that's information I didn't really have when I was writing the books.
That's right. We have that at our disposal.
You're writing the books and you're kind of making some stuff up as it goes. Some things surprise you. And then once you get to the end of a draft of book 1, you kind of look at it all, or a book, you look at it all and you go, oh, I see now why this person was the way that they were. You know their character better. Then you go back in the editing process and you add some things to kind of shape it. And so coming into this TV show with all of the information is a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we are using
you got all the cool scenes. Look at that
some good ones.
So
fun. But one of the things I'll just say, guys, is you're going to see some stuff in upcoming episodes. You've already seen things that are really decisive from our team, meaning there are very particular kinds of interactions, kinds of attitude, even in personality. And in episode 5, there's one coming up that I'm just going to foreshadow. That's very particular interaction that sets up a lot of what's going to happen in season 3. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's been really fun to kind of think about. If this happens here, I can feed it right into what happens in this moment over here. Yeah. It's really cool. All right. So if you want any of these collectibles, keep them coming, but let's keep answering some of your questions. I know there's a bunch flying across the screen here. What you got here?
All right.
Let's see. Audrey.
Was the Florid Sword inspired by Zorro? A combination of Zorro and the Dread Pirate Roberts. Yes.
That's right.
Definitely. In that interview with Matthew Rhys, he was talking about Zorro. I watched Zorro religiously when I was a kid. There were several movies that came out, but there was also this old black and white TV show that I love to watch. And and of course, Dread Pirate Roberts is it's almost a trope now, that kind of character, the masked man in black kind of thing. And so I couldn't resist.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as we reinterpreted him, I'll just say, it was really great that he had another accent, because about the time we were casting, is that right? Yeah. Puss in Boots 2 was blowing up again.
Oh.
And it was like, you definitely can't do Antonio Banderas, right?
Yeah.
So one of his many accents was very close to what Antonio was doing with Puss. And we were like, that's too close to us. Mm-hmm. And so when he offered Welsh, that's one thing we didn't talk about in the interview, but was that, that's actually really useful. Thank you. Gets you want to own your characters, right? Own their kind of performance in their space, and that was a way to do that. Cool. Next question. We're gonna get into some speed rounds here in a minute. You can feel it. Lily asks, "Who's your favorite character in season 2?" In season 2 specifically. So.
Who isn't in, we'll say favorite new character that shows up? Merrily. Easy.
Oh, yeah.
Merrily. Or Nurgabog. Also Nurgabog.
Oh, I just watched a scene with Nurgabog that I didn't notice from an episode coming up, in which the entire time that she's in there, she's got a little tremble.
Oh, my goodness. Really?
I didn't see it in the anim, but when I
That's
saw it in the
amazing.
final, like she's got, because she kind of goes through a hard time. Anyways, it's a great character. I think I agree. Nurgabog's pretty fantastic. And Florid Sword, in honor of our guest Matthew Rhys. All right, what else you got? Oh, I'm seeing a number of these. I'm about to go through and answer on the fast speed round in just a second. Brandon, sorry. Andrew, what is your favorite kind of fang? Oh, lots of things.
My favorite kind of fang. Oh, man. Trying to think how to answer that without spoiling things too much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, favorite is a funny word because it's like they're all pretty bad guys. But the one that I think I can't answer. I'll say this. I'll say keep your eyes peeled for the very last episode of season.
Oh, that's strong. What you just did there.
Yeah.
I know what you just did. I have seen that episode. All right. What other questions? I'm going to go over here to the YouTube chat because y'all are going after it. Will we hear Song of Stones in episode 5? Sophie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Who did the art for the characters in the books? A lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it start in the, if you're talking about the first editions of book 1, the old covers, it was a guy named Justin Gerard.
That's right.
Was book 1. And did he do the rest of those? I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, he did the first couple. Okay, that I'm remembering. I got it. Book 1 was Justin Gerard, who is amazing. Go check out, just Google Justin Gerard. He's one of the best Tolkien illustrators out there. Was a mentor to my son, Aiden. And then book 2, Justin wasn't available, so I illustrated it. Which basically was like the Horned Hound and some random kind of creature illustrations that the Chorkney shows up in there. And
great,
and that
actually.
well, thank you. But it was just desperation. It was like either I do the illustrations or that book wasn't going to have any, so I had to draw them. And then book 3, Justin was available again, and he did book 3. And then book 4 was the great Joe Sutphin, who is a dear friend. And man, that guy just knocked it out of the park. He illustrated the first editions of book 4. And then when we republished the books with Penguin Random House, he was the guy. I was like, can we please get Joe? And he just poured himself into it for a year or so. Illustrated all 4 of the new editions of the books. And if you don't know Joe Sutphin, check out Little Pilgrim's Progress, an incredibly beautiful book, full of great illustrations. And then also Watership Down. He did the graphic novel for Watership Down, and he's currently working on Little Christmas Carol. So it's like a version of Little Pilgrim's Progress, which is mice. It's like an animal version of the story, only he's doing a wonderful Christmas Carol version. So anyway, Joe Sutphin did the rest. I could talk about those guys all day, so I better stop.
That's great. Andrew, how did you publish your books? I have manuscripts I want to publish. I don't know how.
Okay, so how did I publish the books? This is kind of I don't mean this to be a snarky answer, but the way I published my books was I had a music career as a singer-songwriter first. Honestly, like that's kind of how it happened. I was making records and touring, and I had an audience, and that, of course, is one of the things that a publisher is looking for. Can you sell books? Like they're a business, so they've got to somehow sell books. And so if you go into it with I had meetings with some agents and publishers, and I was kind of like, well, here's this big idea for a story. I really want to do this, and I think they took a risk on me, even so. But I think that they knew that even if the book was lousy, that I would at least sell some at my merch table at my concerts, And so that's not an easy answer, like, because I kind of came in through the back door. I actually just mentioned this to somebody the other day. We were talking about publishing, and he was an actor, and I kind of said, yeah, it's like I did music, and then that opened the door. So I kind of came into publishing through the back door. Or I was talking about the TV show. I was like, came into this through, and he was like, everybody comes in through the back door. And I was like, oh, that's kind of true. Like there is no clear-cut, easy answer to the question. You just keep doing your work. Try to be obedient to the calling that God's given you, and do your work, and try to keep doing it better. I usually tell young authors, think of the book that you're writing right now as your first book out of 10. So think of it with a long view. Like Because if you're writing to get published or to get famous, then you're going to burn out. But if you're writing because you have a story that God has given you a gift and you want to use this thing and steward it well and bless the people around you, then whether it's hugely successful or not, you're going to find satisfaction in your work. So I think that's the best answer I could give you. Just keep doing your thing and keep your eyes peeled for back doors.
You didn't ask me, but I'll answer you. How do you become an executive producer?
Yeah, how do you do that?
And it is, for me, the same thing. I learned to edit really good. I mean, honestly, that was the only way I got into the film industry was because I worked in the editing chair real hard and got pretty good at that in a way.
And then you're meeting people while you're doing that.
Interacting with people, seeing choices they're making, understanding the dynamics of the environment, and going, okay, I wouldn't have thought that, but I see it now. Fighting it sometimes, I would never make that choice. Oh, that was actually a good choice, and learning it. And some folks will start off as script readers, right? Or proofreaders, right? Like there's all kinds of ways in. And I think sometimes you may find yourself looking down on that smaller work. No, I want to be an author. Do the small stuff and do really good with it.
Yeah.
Right. And enjoy the work. If you don't enjoy that part of it, you're probably not built for that craft. We talk to people all the time who want to work in animation. And the question is, do you like to do this task in animation? I don't know, whatever that is for you, whether it's animating or actually rigging or sculpting. Do you like to do it like in your free time? If you find enjoyment in it, enjoy the craft, then on you can go.
Yeah.
Garrett loves to just paint, our art director. And therefore he's really good helping painters to paint more and paint better. Right.
Yeah.
So love the basic craft first, and then maybe something else comes.
One last little bit of wisdom that was passed on to me. This sounds ridiculous, but I'm friends with an astronaut. There's this guy, great guy, who I've known for many years. He's a dear friend, and he went up on several shuttle missions, and I remember asking him, like, how in the world do you get picked to go to space? And he had been a Air Force pilot and all these kind of just PhD, all the things. And like at some point, all of those guys are just as qualified. Men and women are just as qualified. And he said that the year he applied to like go up in the space shuttle, I think there were 10,000 other applicants who were all just as qualified. And he said, really, what it comes down to is, who do you want to be stuck on the space station with? Who is kind and dependable and hardworking, is willing to do the dirty work, to make sure who can you depend on? And I was like, oh, that's just like music, because in music, who do I hire to be my guitar player or drummer? It's like, well, who do I want to be stuck on the tour bus with? Somebody who's kind and dependable and is a great player. Obviously, the playing is important. You got to master the craft, but there's so much that goes into it about just your integrity and your character and how you treat people, and that's kind of how you end up getting the job a lot of the time.
All things being equal. Yeah. All right, what other questions? I got a couple speed rounds here, but what else we got in the queue there?
Here it comes.
I got a speed round coming here. All right. Omega Wingfeather, how dark is episode 5 going to be? Around Star Wars, The Bad Batch, or darker? That's great. Dark, meaning luminance, like light, is pretty dark. Dark is in like what you may be thinking. Probably not that dark. I mean,
I don't know.
There's a whip involved. Yeah. It
is a fork factory.
I want to see a duel between Florid Sword and Puss in Boots. Agree. Well, Isaac wants to know, we see any Genera moments in episode 5? This is Jenner Sarah stuff. Yes. Oh yeah. The rabbit in episode. Okay, it's not a rabbit. The beginning of episode in season 1.
The flabbit. Is there a flabbit?
Yes, that eats the bug at the beginning. Where did that particular character come from?
The flabbit.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't remember. I don't remember. It was just that's how you make stuff up. That's what the job is.
This is a great question. Ember Wingfeather, great question. Was the beginning of episode 4 based on the scene in Lost when Kelvin is dragging Desmond through the forest? Okay, I don't remember that from Lost like that, but when that's described, I do.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
when he's flashing in and out, right? So
Whoa, interesting.
right?
Well, that's
so there's
pretty
Pete
funny.
flashing in and out as he's taken by a wagon.
The same actor.
What?
It wasn't inspired by that, but I'm guessing that maybe there was some subliminal thing. But I think there are it's not an original thing that happens.
Point.
You know, that's happened.
But cool, right?
Stories. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
People kept asking what's going to happen with Pete, and we knew. Yeah, there's that. Yeah. So much happening between General Crack and Pete that we're going to pay off. Don't worry, it's still coming. Of like such wasted stuff, and it could have made you so wonderful. Like there's a lot coming in that, which I know all the fans of the books know exactly where that's going. But all right, next question. What you got? Hey, Justin, what is your favorite chapter in your series? Oh, favorite chapter?
My favorite chapter. Under the Moon, Bright Heavens is the one that pops into my head. It's the very end of The Monster in the Hollows.
That's a good chapter.
Thank you.
What's your favorite moment with Oscar? Having voiced him.
In the show? Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think the moment in after the death of Nugget, when they're sitting around the campfire, that soliloquy about, well, there's your shirt.
Yep, this one.
All the old legends must have begun as ordinary days. That part. I love that.
This is a great question. Dugtown Man, we saw in season 1, who said swords weren't for flowers. That was an untitled character.
Who now?
So in episode 2, we go to Dugtown, and Oscar's getting some weapons from a certain individual, the mysterious man, played then by Dave Barnes, our friend, who did a brilliant job with it.
Dave is wonderful.
But that character shall reappear with a proper name.
In 5?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. So coming up very fast. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, that's great. What's the black stuff the Fangs drink? Adderglog is one of my favorites.
What else is there? Ooh, I'm blanking. There's quite a few. It's just, I mean, it's kind of like Maggot Loaf. I remember when I was writing that chapter in the book, I just thought I was trying to gross myself out. And so same thing. Like, Adderglog, you can just imagine it. The game is the humans in Scree are just trying to make the grossest conceivable thing for the Fangs to drink. So.
Yeah, that's right. And they do. All right. Great questions, everybody, tonight. I want to set us up because we have coming up here a tease of episode 5, so I don't want you to miss that. And I think we've answered most of the speed stuff. And let's see if there's anything else in here. Developing merrily onto the screen. We talked with Eva last week about that character. A lot of her design came from influences from book sketches and lots of ideas about what she might look like. The little braid was something we thought was fun to add to kind of dial that in. Questions about Kalmar in season 2. Not going to answer that just yet. But thank you for asking. Glag and Sneem, we did name these characters for ours, but we didn't tell you their names of the Fangs, right? So many of those, yes, are those same characters.
I love that you remember Glag and Sneem. I love that exchange that happens.
Yep. We actually had one of the outtake scenes is a bit with the Fangs talking about how worried they are about the Florid Sword being in town.
Right.
And then we had to cut it, just it didn't, like the tempo of it didn't really flow. But we have an outtake of some of those doing that thing. Which scene did Matthew enjoy performing the most? Stop throwing your pencil. I would say he probably had the most fun with the fighting. It was both, as far as in the booth, he was just, and leaping about, like having a grand old time, like he joked about in there, and not knocking the microphone over. But yeah, he was really great. If there's one thing you want people to take away from the story, what would it be? To take away from the story, like, we don't want to do lessons. We're not here to like teach necessarily, but like hopefully they find meaning in it, I guess.
My answer is longing.
Yeah. Yep. I would say for me it's hope, because the story's going to be pretty dark for a bit here, and these guys continue to hope that it's going to turn right. Anna asks, we add outtakes as bonus features for the season 2 DVD and Blu-ray. We hope so. We kind of ran out of space in season 1. We had some outtakes we wanted to use, but the disc was so full because the episodes. So we'll see. We'll find out from authoring. Sandy Shoot, exactly. Thags, thank you. What's my favorite character? Janner. I think I answer this every week. I literally tell you, but thank you for asking. But I love Janner. He's great. How fast?
Sorry, I'll get him like a fish. I forgot about that thing. I love it. Anyway, sorry.
Put that in there. How fast as the Green Fang and the Ridge Runners compared to the Raptors? Is Lanubar from Jurassic. We have these Velociraptor fangs. We call them tracker fangs that are probably as fast as raptors. So there you go. You saw them in episode 1 chasing Nugget. They're super fast.
Yeah, I was going to quote Jurassic Park, but it's okay. She's working things out. Do you remember that? You can tell when she's looking at you, she's working. Anyway, yeah,
great.
That's a good callback. I had forgotten that those are so much like the Raptors.
All right, Kelly. So I think you said you had another question for us. Pop it up there. That's a great one. John, Chris, why did you choose So Shabby? What's the news? What do you like about that one? As the scene. Yeah. So I chose one of my favorite scenes for people to sign. There's a selection of these collectibles that are ones that I chose from episode 1 so far. It was the one that knocked me on my butt from our animation team. It was one of the first bits of animation. And when you go into any type of animated production, whether it was VeggieTales or other things that I've gotten to be a part of, you have a certain level, you kind of set expectation about what the level of emotional, complexity they can do. And that scene came across, and it just blew my mind. Like, it was so impactful because it had a ton of subtle acting from Shaggy, where he is talking about his knees and this sort of business, and all the while, of course, there's this other thing that Poto wants to really talk about, and it really set a bar for us of like, we're gonna get to animate like that over season 1, and we did, and of course it's gotten even better, and I continue to be just super excited about some of the little moments that we do. Some of the stuff coming up, and we saw a little bit in 4, but some of the stuff coming up in episodes 5 through 7 with Nia and the family is really emotionally compelling. Yeah, with simple stuff. Sophie asks, can we get Wingfeather croc charms? They're still a thing. They keep coming up. I think they're gone, and then they come back up again. Yep. Yep. Are the wing feathers characters? Jace asks Christian. How do you correlate? Because they have.
Yeah, there is no Jesus in this world.
Yep.
And so no.
There's a maker.
Yeah, there is a maker in this world. This is not our world, and Christians live in our world.
Yeah. Okay, good question. Okay. I think that's all the questions we have for tonight. I love the coffin scene. Why did you change them? Well, listen, Grace, the raptor. There's a coffin scene. Don't worry about you. But it's just going to be done a little differently, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Okay. Also, it's still a kids show, so we have to.
That's the biggest reason we changed it, because it was just a little too much.
Yeah. What gave you the idea for Pete? Pete's a complex character, man.
Yeah, Pete. The name Pete was because my brother's name is Pete, and my kids have a crazy Uncle Pete, and I thought, oh yeah, that'll be fun to have. The kids have a crazy Uncle Pete in the story. But yeah, the character. My goodness, honestly, it was another example of me writing something that I thought was funny. What if there was a guy named Pete the Sock Man who did somersaults through the town? And then I had to ask myself, wait, who is he? Why is he doing this? And that led to who he was.
So figure it out. Yeah, that's great. All right, well, thank you all for the good questions. Episode 4 is in the books. Glad we were, the buildup of the first 3 episodes is really monumental.
Huge.
And then settling into Dugtown and all that's going to happen. Of course, the comedy of that episode with Poto and Oscar bouncing around town. That was fun to kind of breathe a little bit and have some fun with stuff. And then, of course, build up to this epic fight sequence. I will tell you, one of the hardest scenes in episode 4, in case you're curious, was the blocking. Figuring out how to earn the boys getting left and the parents getting shoved off and things coming from everywhere.
Like, how can Nia see the boys through the window? And
while Florid's fighting him back. And like, it was way more complicated than we thought to earn that. And hopefully we did it right by you, leaving the boys trapped in there. But episode 5, we got to figure out what happened to them now that they're left in there and everybody ran off. 5 I think you're going to really enjoy. But tonight, like every week, we get to announce the title of the next episode. And so episode 5 is The Sundering. Episode 5, there's the boys peeking out. This, of course, is the chapter from the book. Thought we just ring that bell because we're doing it. Can't wait for y'all to see what happens in this
There's a little hint of it in the trailer. But
that's right.
I'm so proud of the team, you and the team, for getting this right.
I think
took some doing. But
I think it's right.
Yep.
I think it's right.
I think so too.
Yep.
All the little seeds are planted up to this point, and I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Really strong.
So we're going to end the evening and say goodbye. Andrew, we won't see you for a little bit.
Yes.
You're going to do some traveling, so we'll miss you for a few weeks. But
going to be on the road. Going to go over to the UK for the Rabbit Room's Hutchmoot conference, and so we'll be over there traipsing and
practicing your British accent.
Yes, of course. It's all just it's work.
That's right.
That's what it is. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, you guys.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again soon, and say goodnight with a sneak clip from episode 5 coming up Friday. Enjoy it. See ya.
See ya.
Oh, easy there.
In the words of Turble the Footpad, why have I not already skewered your liver?
Petite, you think I had anything to do with the... I have more reason to hate the Fangs than you. They took my Doma and my Sten.
How do I know I can trust you?
What do you want me to say? Dugtown is getting more dangerous by the day. The Florid Sword is stirring things up with the threat of rebellion. Stranders are taking whatever they can. Truth is, you can't trust anyone anymore.
You win, but the pie is mine.